The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Booted Revelation.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Friday episode. Happy Friday. I hope everybody's got excellent plans lined up for this weekend. So today I'm going to be talking about a couple things. Little bit of a late start today. I was watching the new video from Tucker Carlson, new documentary basically about the Trump would-be assassin Thomas Crooks. And he absolutely blows it apart. So I'm going to get into that very briefly in the beginning. Also, was John Fetterman, the Democratic Senator John Fetterman, was he taken out? He was on the talk circuit saying all these terrible things about Democrats. And then boom, now he's in the hospital, probably never to be seen again. Well, we'll see. I think a journalist should go to the hospital where he is and see if he's there. Got a few headlines today. It won't be a long show. We'll probably get it all in the next hour. So let's get to the headlines and read the news. All right, we're going to start out today with what I was just watching, which was Tucker's documentary, Who is Thomas Crooks? Now, Hunter laid out basically what I've been talking about for many years. So young men, usually white men, go on these shooting sprees, started with the Columbine incident. Excuse me. Was that 30 years ago? And it's continued to this day, and I've continually asserted that these things didn't start happening till the rise of the internet, email, and online discourse. So I'm not going to get into, you should watch the documentary. It's not very long. But as I asserted previously, is that the FBI is somehow involved in these acts of violence, mind-controlled wind-up toys that are contacted by nefarious people over the internet and driven to commit murder in some cases, or attempted murder, so forth and so on. So I wanted to put this out there, so you definitely should watch it. It premiered about 8:30 this morning, Eastern Standard Time. And it lays out all the online presence of what Thomas Crooks was saying before and after COVID, and how it seemed like he was driven to violence by a man named Willie, Willie Tepes, who apparently is part of a radical group overseas, probably who he was communicating with on the burner phone with the encrypted accounts. Now, does this person actually exist? Was it a CIA agent acting as somebody? We don't know. I tie it all to intelligence. That's just my speculation as far as that goes. So let's get on with the news here, which is connected. One American News, U.S. State Department designates violent Antifa-linked groups across Europe as foreign terrorist organizations. Antifa-OST, the International Revolutionary Front, armed proletarian justice and revolutionary class self-defense as foreign terrorist organizations who use force against those they identify as opponents of their Marxist and anarchist projects. It's anarcho-communism. The four groups are based in Germany, Italy, and Greece. The Antifa-linked groups have been accused of carrying out terrorist attacks such as bombings and mass shootings to advance their far-left political agenda. Antifa Ost has been linked to several terror attacks in Germany between 2018 and 2023, and German prosecutors have since charged these 7 individuals and ties to the group. Now, if you watch the Thomas Crooks documentary that Tucker just put it out, this guy, Willie Tepes, if he even exists, was also linked to a group similar to these. So it's funny that these two things coincide. Is the FBI trying to cover their tracks here? Hard to say. And let's not forget about Operation Gladio, the NATO-linked terrorist cells that were acting as left-wing groups and actually committed kidnappings and violence and so forth and so on. All right, let's get to the other headline here. When American News, Fetterman hospitalized after falling, suffering injuries to his face. New York Post, Senator John Fetterman hospitalized in Pittsburgh after falling and hitting his face. Fetterman was hospitalized out of an abundance of caution. According to whom? After falling and hitting his face during a morning walk near his home in Braddock, Pennsylvania, his office announced Thursday. So they're taking him off the talk circuit where he had many appearances slamming Democrats for the shutdown, obviously, but before that, also for using demonization terms like Nazi and Hitler and all this stuff, that he was not agreeing much with his far left stance, with the far left stance of his party, him coming from a purple state, mostly a red state, Pennsylvania, except for the eastern part where Philadelphia is located and the western part where Pittsburgh is located. Goes on to say doctors diagnosed the Pennsylvania Democrat with ventricular fibrillation flare-up. Tongue twister a little bit. Meaning his heart wasn't pumping blood correctly during an irregular heartbeat. It can be life-threatening. Of course it can, and sometimes cannot. He's doing well and receiving routine observation at the hospital. Fetterman's office continued, said he opted to stay so doctors can fine-tune his medication regimen. Senator Fetterman is grateful for the EMTs, doctors, and nurses who are providing his care. Okay. So could he have been taken out during his morning walk? Could someone have snuck into his house and farted around with his medication? And so he takes his medication probably in the morning with some breakfast. And then an hour later during his walk, he collapses because he's been drugged. And obviously they know he's got issues, so maybe they put something in there. We all know about the heart attack darts and all the other possible attacks that are untraceable that can be levied against people and take people out by giving them a fake heart attack. Not fake, a real heart attack is caused through some sort of administer of a drug, a chemical, whatever. We know this is possible, certainly, so it's within the possibility, and the motive is obviously there from the Democrats. They want to get him off the trail. So let's move on to the next headline. Which is from Fox News. Trump DOJ, excuse me, Trump DOJ opens mortgage fraud probe into Eric Swalwell as congressman vows to keep fighting back. California Democrat faces investigation while maintaining a lawsuit against the president. So we know what this is. So I'm not going to get into the text of the story. Basically, Eric Swalwell has a $1.5 million, I believe it's a townhouse or home in Washington, D.C. But he is a congressman from California. Now, congressmen sometimes are in D.C. to vote and conduct business. But the most of the time they're in their district. They live in their district. As a matter of fact, you have to live in your district to be a congressman. But he did what most of the Democrats do, which is illegally and fraudulently on your mortgage application, state that your second home is your primary residence, and primary residences get a break on mortgage rates. Also fees and other things. And that was primarily put into place to help first-time home buyers or people to get into a home. But as usual, the Democrats like to game the system. Everybody does it, so even though it's illegal, they just go ahead and do it anyway. And so they have no moral base to stand on, because being a legislature, which means you draft laws that there's, and like Tish James, she's a district attorney, is you should know the law. And so they obviously know the law and just decide to flaunt it. They're scofflaws. And as the judicial proceedings often say, is that ignorance of the law is no defense. Okay, let's get into the communization of the United States. We'll start with the Wall Street Journal. The California campaign to introduce a first-of-its-kind billionaires tax. Union-backed ballot measure is aimed at raising healthcare funding, faces opposition from Governor Newsom. Now, you would say, why does Governor Newsom oppose this? Is because it's only on the surface. Now, he's running for president, so he needs the billionaires to donate to his campaign. So secretly, he will obviously back the measure. But in the meantime, he's trying to come across as a moderate. And the Democrats and liberals always do that. They run as a moderate. Joe Biden did the same thing. You run as a moderate, and then when you get into office, you change your tune. And you sign on to the Green New Deal or exorbitant spending, taxes, unconstitutional authoritarian edicts like, what did Joe Biden do? So he had an eviction moratorium, which was illegal. And obviously, forgiving student loans was also illegal, among other things. So don't hold Governor Newsom to the fact that he won't institute higher punitive taxes on people that make money, because that's where you go with socialism. They actually steal from you, because the way it works is they borrow or tax, and then with the increased velocity of money, they skim. Who's going to, we're taxing billions and trillions of dollars. Who's going to miss 225,000? This brings us to Seattle, post-millennial. Seattle's new socialist mayor, Katie Wilson, vows to Trump-proof the city, plans to enact high taxes, free childcare. Well, free childcare has to be paid for, so that's where you get the high taxes. That's the thing. They promise free stuff, but you have to pay for it. But they don't pay for everything, obviously, because you can't pay for your pipe dream. So you pay for some, and then you borrow the rest, and up goes the deficits. And meanwhile, you stagnate productivity and growth, which helps everybody, helps the economy, by taxing the people that actually create jobs, create businesses. Wilson, 43, considered her narrow upset over Democratic incumbent Bruce Harrell as a mandate from the people. Well, it was a cheat is what it was, because that's what they do. Oh, it's neck and neck, obviously, a cheat. Neck and neck, and let's just wait 3 days till the Democrat gets enough votes that we, conveniently find to put her over the top. It's the same thing that happened to Joe Biden. It's the same thing that happened to, what was that, senator in Arizona, the Senate candidate, among others. I mean, it happens all the time. Just the News is reporting Pritzker aldermen oppose Mayor Johnson's tax plans for Chicago. Property tax hike could be next. Of course it. More commies. Mayor Brandon Johnson and proposed tax hikes continue to draw disapproval from a wide range of critics. And like I said, this is how you destroy economic growth and you oppress people, is through taxation. Just like in Venezuela, Hugo Chavez was elected democratically, in a fair election. But then once the leftists are in, there's never a free and fair election again. It happens in this country in democratic states where they get a supermajority. And Governor Pritzker spoke at a ribbon-cutting event in Chicago on Thursday and reiterated his opposition to Johnson's proposed corporate head tax. Same thing that Newsom's doing. Pritzker's prominent. He's the governor. He might run for president. He's not going to be seen, but with a wink and a nod, he says, yeah, go for it. I think that taxing businesses on a number of jobs that they are creating is a bad way to go. Is it? And what the Democrats will do, obviously, will do this, but selectively against conservative-minded businesses. Obama did this against a variety of conservative businesses, whether it was Chick-fil-A or Hobby Lobby or Harley Davidson. He went after, he sicked the IRS after them. And so it was lawfare way back in the Obama administration. So Alderman Raymond Lopez suggested to Center Square that if the corporate head tax fails, the mayor could push a property tax increase. Isn't that nice? That's what I'm suffering here in my municipality. New Democrat mayor, new property tax. So you might have seen this video online. A lot of conservative media has been talking about it. National Review has the headline, California Democrat Scott Wiener's appalling response to a woman harassed by a trans-identifying man. So who is this trans-identifying man? Well, he has a sordid history. So Grant Freeman is a man who in 2022 pleaded guilty to beating his wife, Alexis. According to court documents obtained by the New York Post, she required surgery to fix her fractured jaw. So he beat her severely. It's unclear when Grant began to identify as a woman, but he does. And he eventually took his now ex-wife's name, Alexis, and changed his surname to Black. So now he's Alexis Black. So you might have seen the video. Alexis Black went viral last week after he harassed a woman in a locker room at Gold's Gym in Beverly Hills. Singer-songwriter Tish Hyman, a Black lesbian, posted a series of videos online in which Hyman confronted Freeman, who exposed his penis in the locker room. So you might have seen the videos or not seen the videos. So the recent videos is Tish Hyman went to an event hosted by Scott Wiener. And she addressed the now viral incident and saying, hey, I'm a black lesbian woman. Why don't you protect women's spaces? Why do you let dudes in dresses, so men with penises that are clearly men who say they're women, go into the women's locker rooms? And then apparently Alexis Grant or Grant Freeman or Alexis Freeman or Alexis Black then harassed Tish Hyman because she was filming him and saying, why is this guy exposing his penis in the women's locker room? If you could pass yourself off as a woman and you're transgender, and you go into a woman's bathroom and go into a stall and go pee-pee, I don't fucking give a shit, right? But if you're undressing, and when you're undressing, people obviously, and if you look at this guy, he's obviously a man. There's no mistaking him for a woman. If you're obviously a man in a woman's locker room in front of other women who are changing, like you don't go into a stall or whatever to change, there's no modesty, it's obviously a sexual ploy to be in women's spaces and to get undressed and be naked with a penis, with your penis showing, and then in the spaces where other women are undressing, showing their genitalia as well, probably. I'm not one for locker rooms. I guess I'm modest. I don't like to be naked. I mean, obviously, when I go to the spa and stuff, usually when I'm on vacation, sometimes I go to the spa, I prefer no one else is there when I quickly change into my robe, or I'll put my robe on and then disrobe underneath the robe. Because there are creepers everywhere. There are people that lingerers, who like hang out, want to see you naked or whatever. Creepy. All right, into more creepy news. New York Post, Sohran Mamdani wants social workers responding to 911 calls, but the test program is already failing. I don't even think I have text for this. No, I don't. I was kind of speeding up today because I was running real close to the wire. I was watching the Tucker thing, and I was just mesmerized by all the investigative evidence that they had about his communications. And again, we know now, or we have an idea now, who the catalyst was to get Thomas Crooks to commit his acts of violence. Because it's a lot of people have violent fantasies, right? And they know this through mind control, psychological profiling, whatever, or criminal fantasies, either or. And they always need that nudge, according to Cass Sustain, to get them over the, that people just have a natural resistance to going through with something so heinous. So there's always people online to help them go along and to goad them into doing it. And we had that with the Buffalo shooting too, ex-FBI agent who was like 40 years older than the shooter, communicating with this guy on Discord, telling him that he should do it. Or at least sympathizing with his. And it happens over and over again. Anyway. So Zohran Mamdani wants to have, this has been tried before, wants social workers responding to 911 calls. What if it's a domestic violence call? You always want people that can, I don't want to say, react properly to violence. You meet violence with violence. You don't want some crazy social worker showing up at a house and getting stabbed to death or shot to death, or get into a situation where you're trying to debate somebody who's under the influence or mentally ill or whatever. You need somebody that could put them down, either tase them or physically restrain them or shoot them if necessary. So I should have had some text from that. The Washington Post probably said it's already failing, so there probably have already been episodes in the past. I think there have been in New York City where they tried to send social workers out to domestic disturbances, and it doesn't end well. I don't have any problem to after their domestic violence cases that there's some sort of mediation with social workers. But police face very dangerous situations all the time, responding to sometimes mundane calls or traffic stops. Very dangerous because people don't react well to the police when they show up. And that's what I always say. It's like, yes, sir, no, sir. Washington Times, Texas A&M votes to restrict gender race ideology in classroom after gender unicorn outcry. Texas A&M University system approved policies Thursday aimed at keeping race and gender ideology out of classrooms, clamping down after an uproar spurred by a lecturer caught teaching the gender unicorn in a children's literature course. I mean, the children weren't present. This is for college students. The Board of Regents voted unanimously to pass a ban on classes that advocate race or gender ideology. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't. On topics related to sexual orientation or gender identity, unless the course and relevant materials receive advance approval by the college administration. So there may be some instances where they say, well, if you're going to teach a course on sexual orientation and gender identity, sure, you could obviously talk about that. But if you're just in a lecture about children's literature, kind of bring in this fringe idea, and they keep trying to make it mainstream, battling this friggin' commenter, and it's like, you got to come over to this side. It's like, I don't believe in, you could have whatever identity you want to have as an adult. I mean, it's a free country. But trying to tell me that there's some sort of scientific basis why that there are more than two, I don't want to say genders, but they're more than two sexes or whatever. It's just. Lecturer Melissa McCall was fired in September after an undercover video showed her booting a student who challenged her. This is the point. Challenged her for teaching the gender unicorn an infographic that promotes the idea that there are multiple genders. And that's just, personal preference, I guess. Not saying you can't. You can believe whatever you want to believe, but, you don't want to force it down my throat. And the fact is that she booted a student. See, here's the thing about college. All right. The students rule. You want to know why the students rule? Because the students pay to be there. They're a customer. So like in a business, the customer rules. Not if you walk into an establishment, you're not a customer. If you purchase something there, you're a customer. Or if you patronize that establishment, you're a customer. And you get to say, hey, you can suggest certain things, but certainly in this instance, it's free for the student, right? Especially on university, to challenge a lecturer who I believe wasn't even the professor. So it's just somebody who was hired to come in. And I've done this plenty of times before. I was at a yoga retreat, spiritual retreat, and I liked all the programming there except for one author, and she was just putting out premises that I didn't agree with, and I challenged her on it, and she got all mad. One of the things that bothered me the most was we all had to sit on the floor, and she sat up on this high chair, and it was like, why didn't you just sit on the ground with us? But there was a lot of other stuff I just didn't agree with, and it was along the lines of this. And by the way, I also wanted to add that, what the unicorns, what symbolism is for the unicorn? Unicorn is a symbol for indoctrination. And that's why you shouldn't have your children play with unicorns and all this stuff, because it is indoctrination. That's what a unicorn is. It's It's mystical indoctrination, mysticism. I'm not going to go any further down that rabbit hole, but you can take that to the bank. Post-millennial Colorado College professor calls students Nazis, fascists in response to opening of TPUSA chapter. Anthropology professor David Kozak was caught flipping off students during an unhinged meltdown. And this happens a lot when you start filming people, which is your right to do, people get so incensed that they start flipping off the camera. That's a college professor, man. You have to have a little bit of decorum. And the problem is that the ideological bend on the right, on the left, is a little bit out of control. It's not a Freudian slip. I mean, we have our own ideological issues, but discourse is what it's all about. And I don't mind, going toe-to-toe with people that want to disagree with me. I do have a problem with trolls, though, that people just go on the internet looking for people that have opposing opinions just to get on there and put out screeds to try to argue with people. I don't go out looking for leftists. I mean, many conservatives might do that, go out looking for leftists and then say, you don't know, fuck you, whatever. Maybe if you want to document it, you clip it, and then you show the video on your site or whatever to show it, and then maybe have a verbal commentary over it. Okay. But to go to somebody that you don't disagree with just to friggin', what a waste of time. Why don't you just start your own site and put your message out that way? And then if people want to hear it, they'll go to your site. If people don't, David Kozak, huh? What a friggin' lunatic. Nazis and fascists. And people, what is that? Who are fascists? What fascists? Like, there is corporate fascism. I'm not disagreeing with that. But people aren't fascists. People don't go, yeah, I want to have corporations control the government. No one says that. Unless maybe you own controlling stock in a corporation. But how many people, those are few and far between. And they're certainly not sitting, they're not on college campuses. They're not young people. They're old billionaires. And I'm not saying they should be taxed for that either. I'm just saying corporations shouldn't have political influence. Corporations aren't persons. They shouldn't be allowed to contribute politically, et cetera. Okay. Because then they're looking out for the corporation's interest, which isn't a person's interest. It's not a citizen's interest. Citizen's interest trump councilism, which is not, corporation isn't a single identity. It's a group of business owners. It's a council. It's councilism. Anyway, I don't digress anymore. New York Post, Hochul postpones gas stove ban for new homes as government gets heat from both sides. Obviously, this is authoritarian. How can you tell me how you want me to cook in my house? If I want to have gas, I should be able to have gas. If I want to have a gas car, I should be able to have gas cars. It's ridiculous. It's authoritarian. So when does environmentalism become authoritarian? I don't know. It's just wrong. And the thing is, they want you to be beholden to the electric grid, and then they can switch it on and off as they see fit. It's part of the social credit score that's coming. You don't have enough credits, or you get energy credits, and then you don't get energy credits to spend on fossil fuels. It's just a way to control you. I do have some text from this story, though. The New York leader faces attack from both sides of the aisle this week when her administration revealed it was stalling the implementation of the All-Electric Buildings Act that could includes controversial ban on installing gas stoves in newly built homes. The law, how do they have this regulation? The law was supposed to start January for new buildings up to 7 stories, and then for all buildings in 2029. including single-family homes. But state lawyers agreed in a court filing to delay amid an ongoing court fight challenging the law, which it should be challenged. It's just blatant authoritarianism. How do you get to tell me what I can do, what I can put in my home? It's complete upside down world. Like this next story, PJ Media, the nerve, DNC union furious over 5-day in-person work week. And as Kirsten Pelz posts on X, this is hilarious. DNC staffers are shocked at being expected to show up to work during a midterm campaign cycle. The best part is that they still get 2 full months before they actually have to get out of bed 5 days a week. Is this a political committee or a daycare? Yeah, I know. I like the hybrid work week. I mean, a lot of people do. I think that's fair to maybe 1 or 2 days a week. If it's feasible for you to work from home, because then maybe you could juggle some home duties, if you're a young mother or, you just need to get some chores done or whatever, you could work and, plus save money, you can make yourself your own lunch, whatever. I don't have a problem with that. But it's really up to whoever's paying your paycheck, what you have to do. Particularly if you are faced with long commutes, I think it's compassionate to be able to say, hey, you don't have to come into the office on Friday, you can work from home, which is usually the biggest traffic day, especially on the way back from work. Next article up here is from the New York Post. Judge who ordered release of 600 Chicago illegal immigrants is slammed by DHS as activists putting lives at risk. It is. Are they criminal illegal aliens? We're not sure, and I don't think I have the text for here. Like I said, I was in a bit of a rush trying to get ready for today's show. So I did not get the text. Regardless, judge who orders, I mean, this is the sanctuary policy again, is that it's obfuscation and obstruction of what needs to get done, which is illegal immigrants need to be removed from the country. Shielding efforts by the federal government to remove illegal aliens is obstruction, and it's against the law. And there's the supremacy clause. Just because you think it's not a fair law doesn't mean you have to, that's like my thing with marijuana. It should be taken off Schedule 1, and it should be made legal, in any case, federally, or at least kick it down to the states. And then states like Mississippi could say, we don't want recreational marijuana. And places like New York and California can say, sure, we can have it. And then you don't have to worry too much about the issue of banking and all these other. Next article up here is from the Fox News channel. Newsom's sanctuary policies under fire after drunk illegal immigrant kills elderly man. Illegal alien Humberto Munoz Gatica was driving under the influence when he struck 71-year-old Barry William Tutt. I guess he was a pedestrian. Like I said again, if he wasn't in the country, it never would have happened. And there is a tendency, is it more or less than the American citizenry? But I find it, when I was working in media, there was a lot of illegal immigrants killing people while driving drunk. I think it seemed to me, I don't have any data, but it seemed to me more often than legal residents or citizens. And the thing is, because they're illegal, they would always flee. So they'd like run somebody over, pedestrian, or the most recent time I remember on one of the highways, a guy had gotten out to check his car. There was either a flat tire or something, and he got hit by a illegal immigrant. The guy took off. He was eventually charged. I don't know if he was deported, but he was charged with manslaughter. Next up, the Federalist. American Revolution is about to experience the Ken Burns effect. This is a story by Christopher Jacobs. But I'm not going to go through the text here for the simple reason is he says how nice it is that Ken Burns puts together this documentary, which I like Ken Burns' documentary. I don't necessarily agree with him politically. And he's not that politically outspoken, so it doesn't really bother me this much. But the CBS did a profile on his new documentary, The American Revolution. And maybe it was the way they edited it, or they just goaded him into saying it's all about slavery all of a sudden. It's like every time they introduce, one of the main characters, one of the founding fathers or whatever, is that whenever they're introduced and they were a slave owner. And the funny thing is like, you have to be able to put yourself in the mindset of those days. Slavery was mundane. It was a commonplace thing. It wasn't unusual. I mean, since ancient times, there was slavery. Now, the African slave trade is very contentious, and I understand why, especially the chattel slavery and stuff. But by the time of the beginning of the 19th century, a lot of people were already saying that this is wrong. And then it went from, having a slave to help out on your farm, which you worked, to industrial slavery, chattel slavery in the South, where they had hundreds, thousands of slaves working the fields, which versus the North, where they had slaves helping out around the house or whatever. And I'm not condoning slavery in any way. I'm a freedom person, but it's the mindset. And usually the slaves in those conditions were treated differently than chattel slavery in the South. But, I don't want to get all mired in that sort of thing. I don't condone slavery. I think it was atrocious and despicable and all that thing. But it was 150 years ago. So what we had just in Congress just not too long ago, I think it was yesterday, the day before yesterday, one representative was debating, I guess, with another congressman, and he said illegal alien. And this guy brought up the Brandon Johnson shit that, he says, let's not call people illegal aliens. And the conservative responded, it's a legal term. Whether, this is the compelled language thing. It's not, you think you're not an illegal alien. So what do illegal aliens care? You think because you're an ally that's not a nice word or whatever. It's a legal term. But he responded and said, well, my people were called slaves back, we're called slaves, and that was a legal term. First of all, slaves were called slaves if they were indeed slaves. If they weren't, they were called free men. So not all blacks, if you were free legally, you were called a free man. You weren't called a slave. So that, that's ridiculous. And that was 150 years ago. We're talking about people in this undocumented migrants in this country illegally, residing here illegally, are illegal aliens. They're aliens because they're foreign nationals and they're here illegally. That's a legal term. No one is calling black people slaves today. We're talking about contemporarily. Financial news, Reuters, Wall Street tumbles as Nvidia slides. Investors fret that the Fed may slow rates. And here we go back to the crux of the matter. Economy is a rising tide that lifts all boats. People are worried about affordability. And the problem is that there's not enough fucking growth because Jerome Powell and the Fed are sitting on their hands. They're not even signaling that they're going to raise rates again when it's obvious that inflation is under check. Tariffs don't cause inflation. Whether a tariff is a tax or not, you want to debate that, whatever. I don't believe it is. Tariff is a tariff, or they'd call it a tax. It's a levy or a duty, and a tax is a levy or a duty. But a tax is not a tariff, but whatever. But we need another rate cut in December. And I think it should be half a point, not another quarter of a point, but they're going to stall because they want to stall Trump's recovery because it makes populism look too good. Some international news. U.S. monitoring Russian ship operating in international waters near Hawaii. The United States Coast Guard is tracking the Russian military ship that was detected in international waters near Oahu, Hawaii at the end of October, the agency announced in a statement on Thursday. Okay. So what are they going to do? What I'm more worried about is this. It's from the Washington Post. China's new aircraft supercarrier challenges U.S. dominance in the Pacific. Does it? The Fujian is a strike group The Fujian and its strike group represent a strategic game changer that will bring Beijing closer to its goals of eroding U.S. maritime primacy in its backyard. Whose backyard? China's backyard. Okay, Chinese communists fucking suck. They're authoritarian. They suck. Who would want to ever live in China? People say they want communism and socialism. Go live in fucking China. You see how it is. The problem is the predominant communism now is Maoism. It's not, if you want to say you're a Marxist or a Leninist, okay. I don't agree with that either. But the Maoism is the fucking worst. That's the kind of shit they use in North Korea, is extreme Maoism in North Korea. You know, I don't want to go down that whole thing, but the communist new supercarrier, they're gaining a military might, certainly technological might. That's all happening, but I'm telling you, that their military has never been challenged. We don't know how really good it is. And America's military has been challenged and has performed superbly, without a doubt. I mean, war sucks. Nobody likes to go to war, but the only time China's military has really been challenged was in Korea. And look at your history books, it didn't fare that well. I mean, they do much like the Russians do, is they have numbers, and so especially their land warfare is just keep sending waves and waves, because they don't care about their people. So kill 500,000, let's keep sending more. The problem is with AI and the technological superiority, if it's a drone war, and both of your drones and your that technology, autonomous drone technology, if they're equal, but as far as soldiers are concerned, I think fighting men and women of the United States are superior. The Federalist reports Chinese government uses threat secret police to cancel U.S. film festival. The CCP's harassment of individuals both in the U.S. and China was successful in pressuring the cancellation of the Indochina Film Festival, a Chinese film festival in the U.S. This was not in China. Was forced to cancel this week due to harassment backed by the Chinese government and against the organizers, filmmakers, and their families, of course, because that's what happens. They threatened their families back in China. And it's coercion. And just, I don't know why anybody. And at least the Federalist, again, like mainstream news outlets, they just refer to it as China. It's not communist China. It's just extortion, intimidation, and all this shit. And the movie industry even is like, all the movies are like, Russia's the enemy. You could never make a movie where China was the enemy because they want that market. So there's, at a certain point, you know, moralism has to take over business. There used to be a time where corporations didn't do things because it wasn't morally acceptable. But, you know, unbeknownst to most consumers, corporations use communist countries for manufacturing. They did it with the Soviet Union. They do it with China because they have slave labor, basically slave labor. You know, there's no pollution restrictions. There's no work hour restrictions. You know, there's no such thing as a weekend in China. All right, get into some tech news. Futurism, terrifying looking robot powers up, immediately declares humanity is a resource to be manipulated or eliminated. Why does that surprise people? I mean, that's why they're building it for, is to supplant human labor, particularly. And I was really pissed. I don't like Sean Hannity. I was particularly pissed that Sean Hannity was a good interview. He did an interview with JD Vance last night. And they said, oh, what's your favorite AI? Mine's Grok. It's great. And did you see the robots building houses? And then JD Vance had to step in and kind of go, well, we're never going to get rid of human labor because you're always going to need a person there to kind of do the fine cabinetry and fine woodwork, the trim work, whatever. But Jesus. Jesus.
I'm an American. I have rights.
Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to engage the channel, like, subscribe, leave a comment, share the podcast. Appreciate you being here. And check out Tucker's new documentary on Thomas Crooks. It's short, but some of the evidence there is outstanding. And obviously, buttresses my claims about how young men, particularly with, I believe, suffering from mental illness, probably taking SSRIs, which give you suicidal and homicidal ideation, and that's why they start having these violent fantasies in the first place. Then they have an online actor come in to nudge them to actually commit the act. So he laid that out quite simply, where this guy, Willie Tepes, comes in and, starts talking with Crooks. And then Crooks, after they start talking, then Crooks goes silent online. My idea is they start communicating offline. There's no evidence of that, but that's my speculation. And that's who he was talking to via the encrypted apps on his phone. And then the FBI cover-up is troubling because the first thing that troubled me, obviously, was the stand down. But when the FBI washed the roof where the assassin Thomas Crooks was shot, washed the roof down like a day after, and then within 10 days, I believe it was even less than 10 days, cremated the body. Very strange. Because that might have led to understanding some things about toxicology, you know, what kind of pharmaceuticals he was taking. Because they know all this. The intelligence agencies know what, and don't forget that the FBI was training at the same gun range that Crooks was, so it was a good enough shot to get him to try to do it. And then their hands are, we didn't do it, it's a crazy kid. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to engage the channel, like, subscribe, as I said. And we're under an hour, so it's about 55 minutes. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourself. I'll be back here Monday unless something breaks, I'll have a special report. But otherwise, I'll be back here Monday, so join me then. Every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m., live stream. See you then. Respect.
You can't handle the truth.